Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, Britain's largest professional trade union for staff working in prisons and correctional centres, public and private mental health services trust providers, and immigration services, with nearly 35,000 members. In this episode, we look at the union's continuing campaign to counter the increased incidence of drones being used to smuggle contraband into prisons. Well, listeners, with me is National Chair Mark Fairhurst, and we're talking about the very pressing issue of drones and the use of drones to smuggle all sorts of terrible things into prisons. Mark, what's the picture looking like when we talk about the rise of the prevalence of drones?
It's getting worse. It's not getting any better. I think over the last 12 months or so, there's been at least 1,000% increase in drones accessing prison airspace. And of course, when drones access prison airspace, all too often it's due to organised criminal gangs inside with illicit mobile phones directing drone pilots to sell windows to drop off a load. And in that load is a variety of illicit items, including mobile phones, drugs, weapons, phone charges, you name it, they get it.
When we're talking about weapons, we're not talking about something at the low end of the weaponry scale, if there can be such a thing. I mean, I think there's a real fear about the lethal nature of some of the stuff that could be being smuggled in.
Yeah, and we've got evidence to back that up. So at Long Lartin, a member of staff was stabbed with a lock knife. Long Lartin has a massive problem with drones. That was delivered via a drone because they're a high security prison. They've got good security measures at the gate. So that undoubtedly was brought in by a drone. We had a lockdown search at Stoke Heath not so long ago where they found two 12-inch machetes. Now, there's only one way that's getting brought in, and that's via a drone. So our biggest fear as a union is that it's only a matter of time before an organised criminal gang get a firearm into a prison, and if a firearm comes into a high security prison, that's an escape attempt.
With potentially terrible consequences, not just in terms of people who should be behind bars getting out, but in terms of the damage and violence that can be inflicted as they try to make their escape. I mean, the government has announced new measures, new funding, a drone task force. Is that going to fix the problem, do you think?
No, it really frustrates me. This is just a headline, isn't it? It's for them to announce in Parliament, look what we're doing to tackle the threat of drones. We are going to recruit 23 non-operational staff, all sat in headquarters in London, working Monday to Friday, telling us stuff that we already know about drones. We don't need analysts to tell us what threat drones pose. That's going to cost at least a couple of £1 million a year in salaries. Would you not be better off investing that money into security departments and saying, here's some additional funding to your security department to combat the threat of drones? You could employ extra staff on nights because we know most deliveries are during the night. So that would give us the capability to burst through a cell door when we know there's been a drone delivery because we've got additional staff on nights. But the biggest one from the staff on the front line is we need more physical security measures. So we need to spend money on physical security, hopefully as well as technology to block drone signals. But physical security is the big one because it's been proven to work.
And by physical security, we mean actually physically preventing the drones being able to get to their intended destinations.
Yeah, so there's a range of measures that you can employ. So you've got wires across exercise yards, nets across exercise yards. People listening to this podcast who work in a prison will know that every segregation unit exercise yard is caged in. So why can't we cage in our own exercise yards? You've also got cages that we fit around cell windows, so drones can't deliver anything there. And then we've got these new windows which don't open. They ventilate, but they don't open. So in the absence of fitting new windows, which is very expensive, we could put retainers on old windows, which enabled them to open slightly, but not enough for someone to stick their hand out. So there are several options when it comes to physical security that are easy wins, that are not that expensive, that we could do immediately.
And is the union's suggested response to this all centred around those sort of measures, or are there other things that you think could be effective in disrupting the supply of illicit goods by these means into prisons?
I think, membership will back me up. There are lots of governors out there who are doing a very good job. But there are some people running our prisons who are absolutely terrified to upset convicts. And I cannot understand why. What did the police do to combat organised crime? They disrupt criminals. And that's what we need to do. We need to be more proactive. So picture the scenario in a jail where, for example, a prisoner's under the influence of spice. We know it's being brought in by a drone. We know the wing's full of drugs. We've got intelligence to suggest that weapons are present. They've been delivered by drone. As soon as we discover a weapon or there's been a violent incident, or as soon as we discover a prisoner under the influence, we know there's drugs or there's weapons on that wing. Why don't we just say, right, everyone's banged up and you're not getting unlocked until we thoroughly search that wing, and we're going to eradicate as much of the illicit items that we can find. And if the next day we find someone being attacked with a knife or someone under the influence, we're going to do it the next day. And the day after that, if the same happens, we're going to do it the day after that. So we make the life of these people who are bringing in all this stuff so uncomfortable and have a zero tolerance approach to it that we totally disrupt their life in prison. If that means prisoners are locked up day after day after day, and we consistently search that wing and those cells because we know there are illicit items present, that's a positive. That's being proactive. That's sending a message out that we're not going to tolerate this anymore. I tell you what, within a few days, you'd be on the safest wing in the prison service because peer pressure would say, we've had enough of this. Let's go somewhere else. Let's try another jail because this jail's locked down. They're on top of this. That would give staff confidence that the issues are being tackled, and it would make prisoners safe, and it would make staff safe.
That would seem to be an entirely sensible, almost obvious step, and it comes from the intelligence that POA members on the front line have been able to feed back. Is government listening at all?
They're listening in the fact that they're now invested £40 million in anti-drone measures. But some of that money is obviously this task force that we don't need. Just give security departments in every jail extra resources, put extra staff on nights. Let's increase physical security. Let's spend the money on something that will combat this threat instead of analysts sitting in headquarters who will tell us what we already know. We know what the threat is. One of the biggest threats I can see was watching a video on YouTube, and it's actually a one pilot drone. It's basically the same as a helicopter. So a person sits in this drone, it lifts off the floor and he flies away. It's the same as a helicopter, but it's a drone. Imagine one of them landing on an exercise yard. You know, a remote pilot directs it to an exercise yard, it lands, and then in gets a convict, and off he goes.
If POA branch officials and members listening to this think, well, what can I do to help the union's campaign get some more heft in this? What can members and reps do to add more weight to these eminently sensible calls?
Well, first and foremost, report every single drone incident so we have a log of it, because I'm positive that there is underreporting in the system, and what we get to hear about is only the tip of the iceberg. So report everything, contact your local MP and highlight the threat to them, because they don't want firearms, drugs and weapons getting into a prison in their constituency. So they'll be keen to do something about it because it's bad publicity for them. And get into your governor about additional resource so we can combat the threat when we actually discover that a delivery is being made to a specific cell. Because if I'm a lone prison officer on a wing of a night and I know that there's been a parcel delivered to a cell, I can't enter that cell to secure that parcel. That cell might have 2 occupants. For me to go in with 2 occupants and secure what's being delivered, it's going to take at least 6 prison officers. You probably haven't got 6 prison officers in the entire jail overnight. And what I'm saying is, why don't we put grab teams on overnight, kitted up, so we can burst through a cell door and secure those goods that have been delivered, especially in jails where we know it's a regular occurrence.
This is a problem that's kind of hiding in plain sight, isn't it?
It is, but it's not getting tackled robustly enough. We're just accepting, oh yeah, we've had another drone delivery. We didn't secure the goods. We don't know what was in the package. Well, what happens if a firearm's in the package? What happens if a machete or a lock knife is in the package? That's a threat to everyone.
it's a situation that demands action, isn't it? Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and no doubt we'll return to this subject in other episodes of the podcast. My thanks to Mark for giving us the inside track on the union's continuing campaign to counter the threat of drones and the contraband that is smuggled in by them. Thank you for listening. We hope you have found what you have heard to be of interest and will join us for the next episode of the POA podcast. Thank you and goodbye.